Hey y'all, this is Moni.
And this is Kat.
Hey Kat. And this is the Fake Ass Book Club. Wait, can we both say it or no?
Welcome back, you guys. It's your girl, Moni.
And this is Kat.
Welcome back, you guys, to the Fake Ass Book Club. We're here with our guest, Paul. What's up with you, Paul?
What's going on, y'all?
Hey, man. Hey, welcome back, because this is your second time. So thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. Listen, we were snacking and talking, y'all. We were, catching a whole vibe. Give the people a little information about you. Reintroduce yourself for those maybe who didn't catch you the first time around.
I don't know what to tell. I don't have like a platform. I'm
It's
a firefighter.
Okay. I'm a real person. I do stuff.
Yeah, I do stuff. I'm a firefighter, wildland firefighter. So just spent the season in Colorado, back home. And I'm happy to be here to record with y'all.
Thank you. We're happy to have you. And this is really cool because today, this has been the long-awaited episode. I mean, I feel like Kat has been dragging me for the better, probably since November. So we're going to be reviewing
I don't want to talk about it.
Wakanda Forever, you guys, okay, which is the follow-up to the initial Black Panther movie. So finally, and we've been lovingly referring to this as Wakanda Eventually. So eventually is finally here. Yes. It's
Wakanda finally.
Finally. Oh my God. Yes. So look.
Wakanda at last.
At last, okay.
So thank you, Disney Plus, for beaming this directly into Moni's home so she could watch it.
I know.
Oh, so it was your first time watching it. You know what? That's the source. I'm going to leave it alone.
Listen, I'm going to explain to you and the people, okay, what really had happened was, okay?
We're not going to put anything on the table.
Because it's moving around?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So for those of you
Nothing can go wrong with this episode.
Definitely not.
The obligatory Black Panther episode.
Too important.
That's right. We need y'all to focus. No, but I did try. So I went to the movies the first time with my family. And my son got sick and I had to take him to the urgent care. Well, ER actually. So we missed it. So then the following weekend we went back. I was on call, got called into work. 2 weekends in a row. So then I was just like, okay, well, I tried. I feel like I gave it all I had. So I just waited for it to come on Disney. And here we are, Wakanda eventually and finally. So before we get into it, you guys, let's dedicate the episode. Hands over your hearts. As always, guys, we want to thank you for tuning in for another fun episode of the Fake Ass Book Club. A special thanks to our patrons. You guys are the best. We are really picking up some speed there. So if you guys have not already, sign up. Patreon.com/thefabpodcast. We have some bonus content there for you guys. And we're willing to kind of tailor it towards you. So if there's stuff you want to talk about,
we get tired of coming up with stuff, so if you guys could do some of the heavy lifting, that'd be great.
I'm not mad about it.
My hand on my heart. I thought we was
I moved it.
Oh,
you
yeah,
can,
No, you good.
My arm got tired too. Yeah, exactly. I'm old and tired. But thank you guys, our patrons. Also, I wanted to dedicate this episode to ourselves because we are Black and we're Black history, and we're in a new space. If you guys are watching us on YouTube, you will notice a different background. We are still working. It's a work in progress, but we have our very own space now. So we're not, in an outside studio. Like, this is going to be our home studio moving forward. So I'm just really excited. We're working really hard. We can't wait to show you guys the before and afters when it's actually done. But feels good. Feels good to be home, friend. What about you?
Well, I just loved that. Yes, and your dedication. My dedication is going out to the art show I'm in this weekend. It's called I Love You, a celebration of Black love. It's February 11th at the Murphy's Art Center at 1043 Virginia Avenue. So please check it out. It's going to be great. It's being, I'm going to put all this stuff up. Moni does a great job in the descriptions and we'll post things. But I like Black and I like love. So it seemed like a good fit.
Excellent.
Dedication over.
Dedication over. Unless, of course, you got a dedication.
Oh, no, y'all
good.
I'm
Okay.
just along for the ride.
Listen, it's about Black love, so I wanted to make sure I was showing you love because I want to make sure.
Oh, and I'm going to go ahead and just shout Moni out right now because you have to always write like a statement whenever you like submit a submission of like art and stuff. And so I just made her come up with some stuff. I'm like, what do you think of when you think of Black love? And you came up with the most elegant, like, explanation about how like it's a reclamation because we've been taught to hate each other and to hate ourselves. So this demanding of that love is reclaiming that. So that's definitely going to go in the copy. So, but I'm crediting you now, even though it's going to look like I wrote it.
It's all good.
I dig it.
I like hearing it. Yeah, for sure. I feel like you said it better than I would have said it.
You didn't hear yourself say it, but you said it really well. You were just painting at the same time.
Okay.
So
I was like, I was doing stuff and talking.
It couldn't have been
doesn't
that
always
deep.
go well, so I'm glad
it was hella deep.
Excellent. Well, what a beautiful place to start. I do feel like, I mean, this is a story largely about Black love. I mean, the Black Panther story certainly has a lot of different elements of Black love. And so I don't know if you have any stats about the actual show that you want to share. I mean, I have a little...
I got a little rundown. It's quick though.
Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna let Kat go ahead.
Because honestly, I mean,
y'all know, but we gonna do it.
It's an international phenomenon.
Whatever, we're gonna.
But Marvel Studios presents Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. It did come out in November.
Oh my God, it's been since November. I just said that.
It's February, but that's okay. And it's the people of Wakanda fight to protect their home from intervening world powers as they mourn the death of King T'Challa.
Yes, indeed. Oh my gosh. So where do we even start? I just feel like, I mean, do we start at the end of Black Panther, the original one? Do we talk about how Chadwick isn't in this movie? He kind of is, but not.
I feel like you almost gotta start with the first one.
Kind of,
yeah.
There's a lot of
context.
Context.
So create the context, you guys. Y'all, you know what I'm saying?
I'm gonna let her go.
So end us off. So what happened at the end? Let's just start there. Because I don't even remember exactly. Kind of. So what happened at the end of the first one?
Killmonger got stabbed.
He died.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
I know. I liked him.
He was my favorite character.
Yeah.
Big time.
He was
I was rooting for him.
Did you know he had a girlfriend in the comics?
Yeah. So.
What was his name?
Madam Slay.
Yeah. Who looks just like Teyana Taylor. That's who they should have got.
Straight up.
Yeah.
Oh, she's a superhero in real life.
Yeah.
Have y'all
For
seen
real.
her?
Yeah.
I mean, she embodies just sort of that, to me, Black beauty, like in the physical form. Like I think women who have more watered down features end up being the ones.
It's a Europeanized standard of beauty.
Exactly.
A lot of times
Thank
in
you.
Hollywood and entertainment. So seeing her being unapologetically Black is fun.
She's so beautiful on but anyway,
she's good at her job.
That would be a vibe. I wouldn't mind seeing her. I think she is giving,
especially
she's super talented.
She is so underrated. This isn't even about her.
Yeah, but Killmonger died at the last one. And so,
because I'll give him a tangent. I was just going to sit here and stand.
He had died, and so it just the movie just kind of ends with T'Challa taking the throne. But in the because Marvel Universe, the thing about Marvel is they're very good at storytelling. This has always been why the comics were so good. There's so many comics, and they're all beautiful because comic books is one of my favorite art forms, but because it was beauty and good storytelling, I've been like hypnotized ever since I first picked up my first Marvel comic book and entered that world. So throughout the cinematic universe during Civil War, like T'Challa gets blipped. And so
blipped, for those who
Infinity War, go ahead.
I'm just saying, for those who don't know what that is, do you want to describe that?
I kind of don't
y'all
know
are
a lot
just
of tolerance for this.
Oh, wow.
So
people with knowledge have to build up
this was for the nerds.
Ignorant people.
I'm sorry, this was for the nerds.
I appreciate
Do
that.
that
Yeah,
for me.
I do
I'm
appreciate
here. Just
that.
blips. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, Thanos, if you don't know who Thanos is, he blipped like
get
half
real.
of Earth's population, possibly to save it because of the Celestials and stuff like that. But he blipped out, and T'Challa was in that. It was for 5 years, just half of the planet was gone, and then they came back because of the Civil War stuff and everything. So we pick up at Wakanda Forever after the blip, because Shuri got blipped too. And so we're back, and they're just in a rush to save his life, and they're not able to do it. And we go straight into his funeral, because in real life, the actor who played Black Black Panther, Chadwick Boseman, died. And that was quite a blow. They had to. To me, the biggest thing was grief.
There was a lot of that, definitely. And I mean, even just the visuals of the funeral, was giving vibes from Beyonce's Black is King too, which I don't know if, you know, these actual rituals are, also on Disney, with the all white garb.
Yeah.
And
most
like
of the world
nature.
mourns in white.
Oh, you know, black folk love small white now.
Yes.
Yeah.
All white parties, even.
And I'm gonna say, like, Africa, Asia, white is their funeral color.
Yes. And so I felt like the visuals for that were really nice. I liked even the casket, you know, like the way
And the
they had
pacing.
It was,
Because when everything slows down, because everything's normal at first, but a lot of times when you're in mourning, you do have like time dilation. You have, everything gets real weird when you're in the valley of death, basically, where you're, you know, letting go of someone. So I thought that was extremely well done.
Ooh,
And I cried, like, immediately.
It was heavy. It was very emotionally heavy.
God. Yeah. I actually cried too. I was like, oh my gosh.
I think I cried like 6 times during this movie. I cried and like shaking crying. Like, I'm going to cry on this episode. So everybody, spoiler, there's going to be spoilers.
Here.
Spoiler alert. Thank you.
Oh, yeah,
Spoiler alert. And I'm going to cry.
And tears.
Because I can't. I even taking notes. I was making my notes for the show. I was crying. I couldn't do anything about this without crying.
Don't look at me then, because you already know it's black eyes, and then it'll be, I'm like, don't you dare. I'm not trying to do that.
Okay, fair.
Okay, I already look like a squirrel today because I'm tired. So,
Squirrels are cute.
No, possums. So try to make that cute. All right. So
you're right. Possums are hideous, but you look more like a squirrel. You were right the first time.
Let possums live. People are scared of possums because they look disgusting.
Ugly, yeah.
They're the only marsupial native to North America. Let them live.
I mean, I'm not.
And they play dead.
Yeah,
That's
they don't
cute.
bother anybody. They just kind of fall out.
I really respect that. It's like, please just, I'll pretend like you're not there if you just.
And like, I come from my country
I know
family.
You know I ain't
They're like,
dead.
oh, you playing possum.
Yeah, it's like, I am. So anyways, back to the episode. Yeah, I definitely, yes, grief was a huge theme. Also too, with Shuri sort of being in a spot where, you know, her brother's dead, you see her sort of like, she's using, I don't want to say using technology as an escape, but it kind of like, she's putting herself into her work and she's not really facing her grief. And it's just interesting to see how different people handle it, because everybody was kind of handling it in a different way. And so the plot for this movie, don't make me do it. I forgot I did want to do this once again. This weekend's been a lot, but because I want to start doing a thing where I tell the whole plot in a minute. Ooh, I can tell
like an elevator pitch type.
Yeah,
okay.
But then it's like you
just
can't
hit
say
all
so
the
fast.
beats.
Do it.
Well, just because everything that happened, so we immediately confront, you know, losing T'Challa, and then we immediately go into Shuri, and there's this contrast between Queen Ramonda and Shuri, because Shuri is the scientist, she's a rationalist, she's a materialist. Queen Ramonda, she's more traditional. She wants to do the ritual. She's like, come with me, leave your phone or the beads. But you know, it was that vibe where it's like, you're not gonna need it where we're going. They go out, she tries to show her this ritual and tell her like, hey, I did this, I felt your brother. She's like, Mom, that's just your brain, don't tell me that. Then boom, Namor shows up. He's like, look, now Namor was because we skipped over the scene where Ramonda went to the UN, was like, y'all gonna stop trying to take our vibranium. Here,
and
your
I
little
love
soldiers.
that it was France
scene,
too, because
that scene was everything.
Right.
Like, just from the fashion,
sorry, like,
the arm. Actually, I feel embarrassed showing my arms after talking about Angela Bassett's arms.
Angela Bassett was out here.
Yeah.
Was she like 60 and fine?
Yes, and so
bad, and just regal. Came up in there and was like, here, your little soldiers, stop trying it. So she's like, look, you know, I did this ritual. I felt your brother. You know, you need to, you know, you have to mourn this many year. We gotta let it go. And she's also cut her locks off. I thought that the visual storytelling was amazing. So, and just the detail, because she had a year of new growth. That was amazing. But then Namor shows up because he's like, hey, they're trying to take my vibranium too. You need to team up or you're my enemy. He wasn't very persuasive. For someone who's supposed to be I guess in the comics he was thousands of years old. He's hundreds of years old in the Marvel Universe. But he seemed a little immature, weirdly. But anyway, he shows up. He's like, hey, we need to link up because, you know, the enemy's after the same thing. And she's like, okay. So they go to the thing. They're like, okay, we're going to protect Riri, who's Ironheart. It's like, because she's the one who came up with the vibranium detection system. So they're basically trying to protect her from Namor, who wants to kill her, which, you know, whatever. I didn't think that was a great strategy. They end up kidnapping Shuri, and she's taken to
Don't you make me say it.
Atlantis,
Talokan. Yeah, Atlantis.
Atlantis,
Yeah,
but
Atlantis.
Talokan,
Yeah.
Mexican Atlantis. And
Mexican
so, and so they do that, or the Mayan Atlantis. It was gorgeous. I mean, just everything they did to make those scenes happen. And so they call on Nakia to rescue her. So she sneaks into say it again.
Talokan.
Thank you.
We're just gonna point to you. You need
it. And but when they do that, they accidentally kill one of the natives down there, and so they wage war on Wakanda. And during the siege, while Ramona's trying to save Riri, she ends up drowning to death. Now Ciri's like, "Oh, you killed my mama. Ooh, I'm dead. Now I gotta cut you." So now she's trying to get everybody mobilized against Namor and stuff like that, but ultimately they end up like, hey, we need to be working together. So they, work it out or whatever, but that's pretty. And then she ends up making the peace with them, finally doing the ritual, feel her brother in the breeze, and then come to find out T'Challa had a baby on him before the blip. And so now the baby's like 8 years old, and or maybe 6, whatever. And I cried.
Was crazy because he looked like
as soon as she showed up on the beach with that little boy. For one, I started because I couldn't scream because I wanted to scream, but I'm in a theater, so I just started like beating the armchair, and then crying uncontrollably.
And then your neighbor sitting next to you.
I didn't give gone. So that was pretty much the whole film. The plot.
That was pretty good.
That was pretty good.
That was over a minute though. I'm gonna.
That's
give
okay.
it
That was, but I feel like all things considered, especially for this particular movie, that was really great.
Thank you.
It was because
there's so much.
There's so much, and it's so hard. And we were talking about this before you pulled up. Like, it's so hard to speak about Black Panther, the first one and this one, and know where to start because there's so many layers to it. Like there's so much nuance. There's so many stories being told on top of the story being told, and you either get it or you don't. And one thing I love about us is we have our own language, and I think that movie very much kind of encapsulated that, where it was like you get it or you don't, and if you don't, you still got plot.
Right,
exactly.
It still look good.
That
part, nothing else.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know what's going on, because that was the thing too. Like, it really bears rewatching because it is so layered. Like visually, the sound. Because we were talking about the composer,
Who was it?
Ludwig Göransson.
Okay.
Yes, and just the use of music was so powerful. Every good blockbuster has amazing music, and just I also want to shout out the official Wakanda Forever podcast that Ta-Nehisi Coates he's hosting, and there's only been 4 episodes, but I'm obsessed with
Ta-Nehisi Coates?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
If you haven't read Coates' run though, it's very good.
I want to read the podcast.
Yeah, and the first movie is very heavily based on his run of Black Panther.
And I'll say this because shout out to Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, for creating it, but they were white men, you know what I mean? And it was great that they were doing this for representation, but they were only going to know so much. Like the original Killmonger had a Jerry Curl wig. Let me run that back. He had a Jerry Curl mullet.
M'Baku wore a gorilla costume.
It was a lot.
That's what they came up with?
Yeah.
Thank goodness they got some black people on there.
Yes.
And Christopher Priest did have a really famous run on Black Panther before Coates, but Coates' run was it was very much like the movie where there was the plot, but then there was so much subtext. And
you knew he was going to go there.
And blackness.
Yeah, and Coates is a good writer.
Because you need more than just pigment for blackness.
Thank you.
For the culture and stuff, so.
Oh my God. Well, so then, okay, let's pick one layer of this story. So the one part that I, kind of was focusing in on was she's at the UN, and basically I think that her son he was gonna start sharing vibranium, right? Is that what
T'Challa? Yeah,
T'Challa
at
was.
the UN,
and so she was kind of there like, yeah, he did, and we're not doing
That's
that.
what
no
y'all
more.
talking about.
Yeah, and I kind of liked how.
Well,
Hell
no,
yeah.
there was still the outreach centers, but she was like, "You're not going to mine
You're
it
not
yourself."
gonna make,
Because that was
we're
what.
staying in control. Of
Yeah,
this.
like I did really enjoy the. Because can we talk about Michaela Cole? I like
Oh,
she's
yeah.
a Dora Milaje, so she was
she's the main one.
not the main one, not Okoye.
Okay,
She
not-
was
listen,
in. She had the little dagger one.
Oh, I love her. Yes,
Io.
yes,
Yes.
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 Okay.
And I'm obsessed with her.
She is
So
beautiful.
she was fantastic. So I love that scene. You know, I love a good espionage because it looks like they're breaking into the place, but
They
it's
were
like
going in. That's
Yes.
hard.
that was super fun. So it's like what you're not going to do is tap into our source.
Exactly.
What we're going to do, we are willing to share, but not everything. And you're because they wanted to circumvent the Wakandans and just get to it
And
themselves.
of course, it was the French.
Well, it was also the U.S. too.
Yes, but like I really like that opening
Yeah, let's
scene
drag the
was
French.
the French. Drag the
Yes.
French. Okay. Ooh.
Oh no.
So first of all,
Personal.
the fact that
Oh.
T'Challa's son was named Toussaint,
Oh,
And
that was pretty great.
Toussaint Louverture,
Let's go.
the first country to be liberated to liberate
Let's go,
themselves
Haiti.
from transatlantic slavery, Haiti.
Yep.
And
Sodomy.
pay its debt to France that France imposed upon them
Right.
for freeing themselves from slavery
Yeah.
until like
In
1954.
there. Yes.
Yeah.
Damn
That's
the French.
crazy.
Like I
That's so
Well, I mean, I'm a Francophile, so not all of them, because you know they like Josephine Baker, and they did some good stuff. But yes, their colonial practices of all of Europe has been abhorrent.
yeah,
So,
French are like
yes.
top 3 worst white people.
I actually wouldn't give it to the French. No, I would
Really?
give it
Top 3, like the British
top
are first.
3. No,
Yeah.
I would put Spain like.
Spain are second for me.
But and I would
Yeah,
just because the
close
Dutch
second.
got out early,
The
they
Dutch,
were one of the main. So
yeah.
I would go Spanish, English, Dutch.
So
Okay,
this is the kind
okay.
of stuff that I mean. Like earlier today, I was telling Kat how like a lot of the time I'm not thinking about anything in particular, and it's like to me you have to have like sat down and thought like who are my top 3
Three
worst,
oppressors.
like oppressors, and I don't have my top 3. Like I need time to think about this because it's not.
They
something
all
I
did it in
ponder.
different
They were all
flavors, though.
terrible.
We're just mostly used to the English-speaking ones because we
Mhm.
don't learn about
Those are the ones we know
non-English-speaking countries. But the French didn't go super hard. Like no, I mean, like in
They
Canada,
went hard in Africa.
But yeah,
they did. That's fair.
They
They
went
did.
real
But that's
hard in
because it's
Africa.
closer.
Yeah, it was so terrible
mean-
there.
It's a very French thing. Say, oh, that's too far.
Yeah, because they can't never win a war anyway. They were just
love
gonna go
being-
where
they
they
love
was right.
being home. Like
Yeah.
France is kind of.
They love being
Well,
home.
I'm just
They
saying
do,
this because
they
I
love
love
being
their
home.
art. Like it's hard for me to like.
It's not like people who like R. Kelly's music.
Exactly.
No, stop
Like,
capping. Like
it is.
R.
It is
Kelly
like
was
that a lot.
like the number 1 selling R&B
That's
artist
what
for
I'm
a minute. So
saying, like,
somebody capping.
I don't necessarily like your ethics, but the art is pretty good.
Somebody capping. You know what? I respect that.
You
I
know,
respect
so
that.
it's hard.
Yeah.
I still have that duality, and plus, I always think of like the Creole. You know, like the Black French.
Mhm.
You know, like Dumas, stuff like that.
Alexander Dumas.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
like
Dumas' father was born into slavery in Haiti.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Sure was. He was
yeah.
a general or something.
I mean, I know.
So like, I mean, but to your point, like there's duality in everything, right?
Yeah.
Everything exists on the spectrum, and I think
so,
that
so if you're listening in
when Kat
France, like,
likes him, it's a spectrum.
It
She don't
is.
like him.
yeah,
He
fuck 'em.
drags, Yeah.
wait, what? No, like yeah.
That
Look,
was a side. That was
Well,
a
no,
side.
just because like there's what am I wanting to say? I want to talk about Wakanda.
yeah. Let's stop
Yeah,
talking
that's
about.
one part. Let's,
I wanna
yes,
talk
This
about
ain't
the
about them.
oppressors.
Like,
Yeah.
Let's talk about Black
Yeah.
lives. So what part? What do you want to talk about? Like we said, it's layered. You got.
Let me pull up my notes. No, I want our guests to like what scene took you out the most?
So you know, Killmonger's my favorite character.
Mm-hmm.
And
All hail King Killmonger.
All hail King Killmonger. I think that Killmonger had a more compelling story for me than any other character.
Okay, let's talk about it. Who do you think Killmonger's mom is?
Ooh, okay, so here's the thing, right? They changed Killmonger's origin for the movie. Like his comic book origin is you know this is a lot different. And they did that because of the narrative that was being pushed in the movie.
Yeah, just for
and I
timelines.
appreciate it. Yeah. And I appreciated that. And they did the same with Namor. They changed
Yeah.
Namor's origin heavy, but both versions of the character, like both Namor and Killmonger, worked so much better in the movie to me than the comic books.
Hmm.
Um,
Which makes sense because they had They
black.
made sure they're like, hey, let's go to Mexico to learn about Mexico. Let's go to Africa to learn about Africa.
Yeah,
Like,
but
let's
to
ask
answer,
American Black people about what that's like.
yeah, and it was very much like a part of the narrative, you know, in both cases. But to answer your question, I don't know who Killmonger's mother is. That's one I gotta think
To me,
about.
it's a weird thing that people don't ask more about because who your mother is kind of huge. Like, motherhood was a big theme.
It's kind of huge.
Kind of huge.
It's kind of huge.
I mean,
know who your mom is.
we were mentioning slavery earlier. Your status of whether you were a free or slave person was based on your mother, not your father. Your father could be king,
intentional.
but if your mom was a slave, you're a slave.
Mhm.
So to me, the fact that like there's no questions in the show about who his mom is. Like we know his dad is because he gets killed in like the opening scene, but like.
Ooh,
And
I would
mother-
love to see that now. I never even thought about that either. It's like,
I'd be thinking.
I forgot about that.
Because like I said, Killmonger's one of my favorite characters too. I dressed up as Killmonger for Halloween.
You did. That's
one
right.
year.
You did. She did.
I'll
That
throw
was
that
dope.
up
That
here.
dope.
It was
Yeah,
fun.
That was cute.
But like, yeah, like motherhood was a big theme of Wakanda Forever. Like, was a mother-daughter story in a lot of ways. So I have a pet theory. The timing doesn't work out, but in like my perfect world, I would want Killmonger's mom to be Asada Shakur. Because they just said
dig
like
that.
because I did Google
The time
it.
don't work, but I dig it though.
Right?
Yeah.
Because the timing, I Googled it, like who's Killmonger's mom, and they just said it was an American Black woman.
Mhm.
And so, but in the opening scene of the first Black Panther, when N'Jaka, was that his dad's name? He was working with young Forrest Whitaker and they had blueprints out. They were doing a jailbreak for Killmonger's mom because she was locked up. So, and in real life, look it up. Like, she broke out of
She was
prison.
a Black Panther, basically.
Yeah, she's in
For real.
in Cuba now. So I love the idea of like, even though the time doesn't work out, like that being his mom.
That's dope though. I dig that. I
Yeah.
dig that. But to answer your question, a scene that really stuck out to me was when Shuri went into the ancestral plane. And
that was one of my favorites too.
That I was like, gasp.
so I have a whole thing about the ancestral plane anyway,
Okay.
and I don't want to make this the Killmonger show, but like
Well, no, it can be the Killmonger.
even
only
he's my
I'm
favorite
pulling up a
character.
graphic now. It's the Killmonger show.
He's my favorite character. I've done so many like dissections, and it's kind of messed up too, right? Because I think that Killmonger is a lot of like Black men's favorite characters in the movie, and understandably so. He's mine, but look at all the violence he did towards Black women.
And that's why I said I don't think he had a relationship with. He does all of his relationships with women were just violent.
But I think
were
that
all
was
his
also
interactions.
kind of a commentary on like our duality in this struggle together. You know, I think there's kind of a dissonance there sometimes, but
sometimes.
well, yeah. But so when they're in the ancestral plane, just bringing it back to the first movie, like T'Challa had this amazing place to go to in the ancestral plane where he was able to actually commune with his ancestors, and it was beautiful, and it looked like Lion King but like on acid. It was super dope. Killmonger's ancestral plane vision, he never left that apartment where he was hurt, you know.
That's why.
And you could see the
Because
sky.
he wasn't with the other ancestors.
He wasn't with the other ancestors.
That's right.
And you could see the sky outside was purple. Like it might have been something cool outside, but he never even could look outside.
He's still in that moment of trauma.
He's still in that moment of trauma, right? And so when Shuri goes to the ancestral plane, she's hoping to see T'Challa or her mother, and she sees Killmonger. And they were finally connected through grief. And I think that was a commentary in a lot of ways about us, you know? And it transcends culture even, because, and we could talk about this with us, but like a lot of people on the outside don't realize how much dissonance there is between us, like between Africans and Caribbeans and American Black people. And there's a lot of unity, but there's also a lot of dissonance sometimes. And
they talk about, because a lot of what we see of Africa is shaped by non-Africans and vice versa. Like a lot of what they know about American Black people is not from our narration. It's from a lot of times what we would consider white people and what they can, you know, like this is actually, it's like we're violent, we're lazy, like all this stuff. And then,
working for free for 400 years.
Yeah.
Well, it reminds me of that book You reviewed on Debra's podcast, how America made me into a black man. And, just this person coming from Africa and then, like, having preconceived notions about black Americans.
Like, we never produced anything good. Like,
Yes.
he thought Stevie Wonder, he was Somalian. He thought Stevie Wonder was Somalian. He didn't know Stevie Wonder was American.
It's like there's no way that...
Yeah, like
Yeah,
they
that's
didn't think
crazy.
anyone, like, we can't produce anything worthwhile. And I
Wow.
liked what you said, grief, because that was in my notes too. Like, to me, because that was such a huge theme of it. And it's helped me because one of my favorite quotes is, grief is love persisting. And that's so true, because you're both of them, like, even though they were stuck in their anger and their grief, it's because they just love, Killmonger loved his dad so much. Like, that's all he had left in the world. And just to and for Shuri, loving her brother so much, like, it's like you'll never have that again. Like, and that's so hard. And for me, like, and I know because I've had a lot of grief in my life, but it's bittersweet because there was so much love there. That's why I feel sad, because I'm like, oh, I lost this really good thing that I'm never going to have again like that.
That's pretty crazy. So what part of that, so you're saying that you feel like that could be a uniting force, like the grief, or just that kind of moment of humanity when you recognize that, like, we're all, like, everybody's hurting from something.
Yeah.
Like, and that's our shared experience.
Because, like, Namor, when he attacked because one of his people were killed, and he was like, okay, I'm wiping all y'all out, you gonna come in. But it's like,
That's the
you
same mentality
started
Shuri had.
Exactly.
Like, she
And it
said
looks-
that, right?
and it
And I didn't
looks
mean to cut you
crazy.
off.
No,
like,
we
but-
cut each other off at the fake ass book club.
Yeah, we don't. We get
No, but
excited.
I just got excited when you said that, because that's literally what Shuri said. She was like, I want to watch the world burn.
Yeah, because it's like, I'm afraid, and then there is that
Sounds like my daughter.
intensity. Let's talk about mothers and daughters, though, because I loved that theme of it, because there is it's this unique relationship, because there's so much love and fear and misunderstanding, because when she's trying to communicate with her, like, hey, you need this. Like, I know I made you molecule by molecule. I know what you need. And you're like, you don't know what I need, old woman. I always make the joke, like, with my daughter, when I tell her stuff, I'm just the crazy old woman who lives in her house. Like, that's a lot of times how we...
The vibe I'm getting.
Because I know, because I had that feeling. Like, where it's like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, da-da-da. And then just to live enough life to be like,
She was really nice.
it's like, my mom was right about more than she was wrong about. So especially when it came to me. But you never want to hear anything about yourself.
Well, nothing other than the glowing reviews that you tell yourself about yourself.
Of course.
It's tough. And I think, too, just to your point, like, I liked how when they took Shuri down into the Mexican Atlantis or whatever.
No, say it.
Talokan?
Yes.
Thank you.
That, he was trying to connect with her on that. Like, I think that he recognized that
He saw
there
it.
was this shared sort of like,
Namor
hey, we
wasn't
have
the
this.
villain.
You know what I mean? He's like, look, if they find where we are because they're out here looking for vibranium, like, that puts us out here on Front Street. You can't do that.
Right. That's
And
what I didn't
so-
like. He just came so aggressive
That
with
part.
it.
He was like, so you have to get with me so we can burn everybody
You'll
up.
get down or lay
It's
down.
like,
Right.
wait a minute. Hold
Get down.
on. Like, I
And it's like, give me a second. Like, wait, you exist? Like, what's
Right. I'm
like, give me a
underwater.
minute. Like, yeah, and you kidnapped me, though? Like, she said, like, this is some Belle Beast stuff. Like, this isn't, like, cute for real. Like...
This is terrible.
Yeah, when people
Yeah.
kidnap you, that's bad.
It is not good.
And it's not a way to facilitate peace.
No, it's not. And I, like, just to the point of him sort of taking that angle of like, hey, we have a reason to protect each other, sort of. And it is interesting that, like, when you have this power, the instinct is to dominate, and I don't know. In my estimation, when you have all this power, it's easy to do that. Like, I've been here for thousands, hundreds of years. I got these wings on my feet. I know I can make the world burn up. You know what I'm saying? But I think it's much harder to restrain yourself and figure out, like, how do we do this though? You know what I mean? Like, how do we focus on the beauty? Like, how do we focus on the good stuff? I feel like it just feels better.
I think
It's
so.
more of a release. It's like I get to, like, it's cathartic.
But I think
in a way.
historically, because I like how you brought up, like, Namor wasn't actually the enemy.
He wasn't the villain.
He wasn't.
Yeah.
Right, but there's, the powers that be would like to fraction us off into little minorities, so we're all fighting for a chunk of privilege.
But I think that's what the movie was. I think that's why they changed Namor's origin, because in the comics he's not
he's
person
not
of color.
Mesoamerican.
Yeah. He's kind of racially ambiguous. I mean, I always just saw him as a white man.
Atlantis.
Yeah.
So, he was just, pretty much a god. Well, he was a mutant. He was the first mutant.
Yeah.
Oh, that was very exciting, actually. That's the first time the word mutant's been used in the MCU.
X-Men coming to the MCU, man.
I really feel like, because this is the new T'Challa that was introduced through Toussaint, so I think that, because, ultimately in the comics... You gonna
get with Storm?
Yes.
What, the Prince one? That's the son?
I think they're going to do a whole thing, because I want to see Storm's origin story. I want to see her, married to T'Challa. I want to see all of that.
Ooh, that would be nice.
And they got to get Storm right, too, because Storm is such a dope character.
And she's been mostly represented, in the comics. Yes, it's been a very... And I was like, man, her hair would not be...
Can we go back to Tiana Taylor? Because
it's like she is Kenyan and Egyptian. That would have been, yes.
So East Africa.
She's fascinating. Really, Storm is really one of the most powerful mutants too. So, yeah.
So, top 5 favorite?
Storm in my top 5 for sure.
Yeah.
Who's your top 5?
Oh, my top 5 mutants?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say MCU because it's not all mutants.
I think she just mean Marvel characters.
Yeah,
I do. I don't know the difference, but
So number 1 is Storm. Number 2, the Hulk. Number 3, Wolverine. Number 4. It's getting harder. Rogue. I liked Rogue.
Rogue is dope.
Yeah, I did like Rogue. Yeah. And then number 5, Professor X.
Okay, word.
So what about you?
Okay, so
stealing your answers over here.
Spider-Man.
The black one. Miles.
So you gotta understand, I'm a '90s kid, so I grew up on Peter Parker Spider-Man. I do really love Miles Morales' character, but nostalgia.
I like Spider-Man.
Yeah. With the Aerosmith,
radio
with the guitar. Come on, man. But Spider-Man, Wolverine for sure, Black Panther, Storm, and Magneto actually, even though he's not like a superhero, but
he's like a superhero.
He's like a villain.
Well, once again though,
in the same way that Killmonger's a villain.
Listen, I always tell my kids villains is just it's sticky, because a villain, honestly, a lot of times there's something behind that. People usually don't just freak out and want to destroy everything. No. What happened before there? What happened before? There's always a story that involves. And
it involved the Holocaust.
Yeah.
So
that's pretty sad.
It was super sad. You got to realize too, because a lot of the people who wrote these comics originally too were Jewish. So
Stan Lee.
Yeah, and was Jack Kirby Jewish?
I don't know. I think Steve Ditko might have been Jewish.
Yeah. So a lot of times they're coming at it and this is why I'm so what is the word I'm looking for? I've been knowing this was dope. I've been made fun of liking this for the longest time. And now that it's a worldwide phenomenon, it's oh, now it's cool. Cool. But it's this has been dope. It's been telling me stories. The reason why it still hits so hard is because they're telling universal stories about alienation, power disparities, all of this stuff. And a lot of times it takes people out because it's so fantastic. It's wait, mutants, flying monsters, space, I don't like it. Aliens, it looks weird. But to me, it helps me to remove my prejudices, because we've all been colored by colonization. Yeah. So when it's the Kree and the Shi'ar, now I can see it a little bit more clearly, because I'm not being colored by my bias. And then when I'm able to see myself, I'm well, wait, where would I be in this story? Who would I be?
Whose story resonates?
Yeah. And it's oh, wait, do I need to rethink some of my positions? And it's yeah.
Okay.
You know what? I'm glad you brought that up too, because you got to understand, I grew up reading comic books, but I was never, my high school was real cliquey, and I don't think I was ever in the nerd circle really. But one thing I've noticed as an adult, now that a lot of my friends are into anime and comic books and all of that, is there's this constant dialogue recently about like, oh, comic books are too woke. They're trying to like push a narrative, and I'm like, bro, they've always been trying to push a narrative.
Yeah,
like
That's the whole
X-Men
point,
is
actually.
literally a commentary on
it was
oppression.
like, yeah, Professor X was MLK and Magneto was Malcolm X.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't even subtle.
It wasn't even subtle. Like, that's what it was. And if you ask Stan Lee, I think he said something to that effect of, we were trying to make these stories relatable for everybody reading, but there was a very specific purpose around it. And of course, Stan Lee was kind of a people pleaser too, so he gonna say what make you happy.
Well, and he brought in the money. Somebody has to do it.
Yeah.
So someone has to be reasonable. But I think that, and it was crazy too, because honestly, if it wasn't for the X-Men comics, that's how I learned about evolution. Like, I went to a school that wouldn't teach it. So I literally had to learn about it from comic books. So a lot of times when people see this as silly, some of it is, like I said, like you got the blob and like it is, you know, a lot of it is kind of silly, but some of it's very real. And for me, I was like, that's messed up. Like my parents paid thousands of dollars for an education and I got more from a $3 comic book.
That is
real.
messed up.
Welcome to the Midwest, y'all.
I know, it's crazy. Well, I can appreciate people who take the time to make these stories relatable. So, you know, again, it's not anything that I'm like naturally just inclined toward. It's like reading a comic book. And sometimes it takes visualization too, though, because people's imaginations aren't always, you know, it's not always just there. So I do appreciate people like the Stan Lees, like you're saying. They took this idea knowing like, hey, there are these common themes that we feel like are important, and a lot of people aren't interested. A lot of people aren't necessarily taken in this narrative. How can we sort of, you know, personify this in a way? You know, this is why storytelling ends up being important. And that's probably, I mean, if you think about just the way we learn a lot of stuff, it's in narrative form. Like you're getting it because it's like, oh, you know, and not to go to religion, but a lot of our religious stories are that way. You know, they're personified because
it's the hero's
easy
journey.
to get.
It's the hero's
We
journey.
love it. Like it's like,
good.
and Wakanda Forever was a perfect hero's journey.
Oh, it was, yeah.
For
was beautiful.
Shuri especially.
Yeah, I loved it.
Like
I loved hers.
and Okoye.
I loved her.
Okoye is, to me, like,
She's
top 3 characters.
She's getting her own
gosh.
series.
Oh, is she really?
Yeah, well, that's what I heard.
Oh,
Like
wow.
she's
I
getting her
didn't know.
own series on
I
Disney
thought they
Plus.
kept talking about her head being ashy.
Well, no, that was
with it.
because she had makeup
She
over
had
it to
makeup
cover
on
the
it.
tattoos.
Oh, okay. I guess I did forgot she had the tattoo. I'm like, why they keep
and then
saying
when
that?
Michael called her a bald-headed demon,
Yeah, I
I was
don't
like, that's not going to be
like
good for the
this.
culture.
Oh, look. I've made up in my
this.
mind that the Jabari are just cues. Like,
Yes,
Oh
very
my
much so.
they
God.
I
be
think we,
barking,
yeah.
Oh my
like, disrespecting
God.
women.
Yeah,
Like,
just
they're
Wow.
cues. Like,
okay. All right.
not all cues.
Just you know what I'm saying. Some of them.
Yeah, it was giving heavy but I love the scene when they were working together with the Dora Milaje. Like that was just very good visual storytelling where you see men and women warriors like working together when they were out at sea with the, you know, like that was something to me that I caught real quick. I was like, yeah, I like that. Like, cause a lot of people complained about Shuri getting the mantle because they were saying it was like black male erasure.
so actually, and I don't mean to cut you off, just I want to put this question
We've
on
already
y'all.
established
Like,
this. Cut me off.
yeah, no. I wanted to know what you thought of the role that black women took in this movie because I thought
loved
it was
every minute of
dope.
it.
But like a lot of people did complain about this black male erasure. And going back to the first movie, like y'all favorite character and mine too, choked out like 3 women the whole movie.
Shot one.
Shot one. So
Yeah.
like, why does this have to be now black male erasure just because they're showcasing a woman taking the mantle,
And
which
it wasn't
happens
even
in
the
comic
original. It
books
wasn't
anyway.
even. It does. Thank you. It was canon in the comic books. The original script was supposed to be a father-son narrative between T'Challa and his son, and it obviously things had to change. Like just like in real life, things happen. So they're like, hey, things are mad real. Like we have to turn on a dime. So now it has to be a mother-daughter story because he had based it on the story of 8. Like that was what was cool about listening to the podcast because Ryan Coogler was talking about like he is brilliant. Like I could just listen to him talk about Wakanda forever. But he called it the ritual of 8 because that was a big theme was the ritual. So his idea was that in the Wakandan culture, when you turn 8 years old, you spend 8 days in the bush with your father, and you're allowed to ask anything, and he has to answer honestly. And so that was what it was supposed to be around, but they had to change it, obviously, because the man died, and it wouldn't have. And I like their decision to not try to replace him with another actor. That would have been weird. So the fact that they were like, he just has to actually die in the MCU, and like I said, it was perfectly. It's a royal family. Yes. What is wrong with the woman taking the mantle? That it's crazy because well, quite honestly, like, because one of the things that bothers me sometimes is the fact that they still have a royal family. I think royalty is by nature unethical.
Stupid.
But
Ta-Nehisi Coates.
but since it's a it's a made up universe, whatever, and people like royalty, so fine. The clothes are great. And so she's obviously, like, it goes to the next child unless you're a horribly sexist society and like women can't be leaders. It's like, oh, since when? Like, there's
even in Game of Thrones, that was a whole
that was a real big
a lot
problem.
of these, even in fantasy worlds,
it's like she's gonna have her
problem.
period all over the place.
Yeah, it's like,
what are we gonna do?
She's got feelings. Like, I mean,
no emotions.
Emotions. Both. That's right. That's
emotional.
Excuse me, emotional.
Yeah,
like
so
men are emotional.
it was to me. I thought that was I felt that was a trick of the enemy to cause division, because to me, there's nothing wrong with having a Black woman focused narrative.
Yeah, but I think I feel like it's always threatening to the status quo anytime you're highlighting somebody that isn't what you think about as a traditional leader, or even just with like LGBTQ stuff, or
because that was in the MCU, which was canon. Like a lot of the Dora Milaje,
gay.
It's like, who knew? Like, oh, surprise, surprise! It's like when you find out someone
shoehorning this in, like they're trying to be representative.
No, that is very representative. For one,
these people exist, and just because they're showing them does not mean that, like,
it's
there's
propaganda.
This plot, to take over. It's like that is so
a hot take.
If that's all it took. If that's all it took to make you gay.
Oh, I love that joke.
You feel me?
If that's all it took, a little
squirt, he was gay.
Squirt on the butt, that's it. If y'all don't know what we're talking about, watch Blocks, Neil Brennan, great joke.
My identity.
Yes, it's like, damn, you need to get a grip. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, if your ego is that fragile to where you can't even listen to other people's stories, see other people's stories, like, that feels really
dumb.
It feels dumb.
And I think you should be allowed to call it dumb. I know people get mad when you call things stupid, but that's just stupid.
No.
It doesn't make sense.
I'm an old school 90s kid. I think some people should be bullied.
Well, here's
Pushing
the thing.
You down.
I don't like bullying, but I'm a very strong belief that you can't be bullied by your peers. I think someone has to have more power than you for it to be bullying. So when people are just being shitty to you, that's not bullying. That's just people being shitty to you.
That's
you have
real.
to figure that out. But, like, if there's someone with more power than you who's being shitty to you, that's bullying. Because I can't walk away from you. Like, for instance, like in sexual harassment situations and stuff like that. Sense. Like, you can't just, like, be like, I don't, it's like, I need this job to live. So, like,
you just gotta put up with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, in situations like that. But if we're in the schoolyard and you're the same size, I'm the same size, like.
What if you're taller?
We're not the same size. Yeah, that's more power.
But what if I'm stronger than you? You just
That's more power.
No, I'm saying, what if, as the smaller person, technically, I could still body you, though?
Right.
Just because you're taller.
Right, let's find out.
I'm close to you.
Fuck around and find out. Where's that chart?
That's why I didn't talk shit to people. I was not curious to find out if you could whip my ass. I'm like, I want to draw later. I don't want to have a broken hand. Like, that sounds terrible.
It just depends. Sometimes
it just depends.
Like, you do have to fuck around and find out. It's like,
sometimes you got to find
It's just, I'm curious. And actually, I don't even care. It's not even about that. It's going down.
Yeah. So I forgot what we were talking about before.
Well, I was saying.
That's a great question.
Anywho, no, just power structures feeling threatened by representation and how ridiculous that is at a large scale.
But in the comics, before it was ever bought out by Disney, there were gay people in comic books. Like, that was a big part.
What?
Because guess what? A lot of artists are gay. Like, that happens.
Go figure that.
Go figure. And I don't think it's necessarily that a lot of artists are gay. Because I noticed this in the culinary world too, where it just seems like, they seem to have a lot of gay people. You watch Food Network and stuff. It's like, a lot. But I don't think they necessarily just have a higher percentage of gay people in that field. I think because to be a culinary artist, to be a visual artist, you have to be honest. Like, dishonesty, living a double life, like, none of that serves you in art. Like, and the more you give energy to dishonesty, I think that makes your art suffer. So I think a lot of times you just find more honest people in the art world. That's just
interesting.
My pet theory. Or my pet hypothesis.
Oh, we're both like, I need I need like a little monocle and
yeah.
But no, I think that is true, and that might be why. I mean, I've never thought about it in that way, though, but I do. I mean, even though, you say everybody's an artist, but, I'm drawn to people who are creators and really just organic people in general, though, at all levels. So I do think you might be on something, friend.
Thank you.
I kind of like that. I kind of like that. Now, what other things do we have to talk about, like, in this section? Because, of course, you guys, if you're on our Patreon, you're going to get bonus content about this. But as far as this episode, what can't we, like, skip over before we, you know what I'm saying? Like, was there any part of this story that you feel like we've not touched that you're like, oh, my God, like,
probably the scene that I think got Angela Bassett the Academy Award nomination. Everybody know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yo.
So
that was crazy.
I can't get enough of
out
it.
Here.
I can't get enough of it.
So this is just to make sure I'm clear.
Yes.
Because sometimes I can be, make sure. So this is the scene where the queen is mad because Shuri got abducted, and she's going
rightfully
off.
So, because she didn't want to send her in the first place.
She didn't.
Because upon a rewatch, I was like, oh, she was actually debating about it because she's like, she's still a little off. And she went with Okoye anyway because Okoye is a great warrior and a strategist, and she put her trust in her.
And I think all things considered, she tried. You know what I mean? It's not like she went.
It was probably the correct move. But sometimes the right move, you get losses.
Yes, that part. Exactly. So again, you couldn't, I don't know what you could tell me to console me either. And I definitely understand that whole feeling. But that scene, can it pop up right now?
Have I not given everything?
So good. No, but and even just like Okoye's reaction, like just seeing her strip, how she rides for her country so hard. Even somebody in the background was like, maybe we're being too hasty. Like she did almost murder her husband. Yeah,
he has a real name.
Was it Lip Disc?
I think it was Lip Disc.
It almost sounded like Lip Disc.
Her husband was the dude from Get Out.
I can't remember his name, but somebody.
Oh, it was the mining colony dude.
Yeah.
Okay. The mining tribe.
Okay, the mining tribe. Yeah, basically, like, she basically was willing to murk her husband
out here,
behind Wakanda.
And who she could go visit anytime.
Right.
How we know you weren't even in on it. You might have been like Clarence Thomas and his ugly wife.
Oh, they're the worst. Yeah. But yeah, that scene definitely gave me chills. I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, that. Oh God, I felt so bad for her. I felt bad for her.
But I think they did that strategically because Okoye is also supposed to be getting her own series on Disney Plus.
That's dope.
So that made me feel better.
Wow.
I think that was that's something I heard. Just rumors, but they're talking. But I hope that is what's happening because I can't get enough of Okoye, and I hope Michaela Cole is part of it too.
Oh my gosh. What did you guys think about the character of the young woman who? What was her name? The one that made she was like
Ironheart.
super.
Oh, Riri Williams.
So is she a real character, like in the thing, like
in the comics?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard of her in my life.
She's a newer character. She's like came around the same time as Miles Morales. Like, kind of like when I was in college. Like pretty new characters. Okay. And the funny part about it is her reception was like people did not like her when she came out.
Oh, really?
Like at all.
So she's supposed to be like a girl Tony Stark kind of thing. That's kind of.
But she's from Chicago because Tony Stark came for money.
Yeah,
right. So she's from the south side of Chicago, and
which is even more impressive.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Started from the bottom, now she's here.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Yeah. Okay, all right.
I liked her.
Okay.
Oh, I think she was a dope character, but I'm just saying, like in general, once again, like the incel comic book fanboys were like, oh, they're trying to make everything woke now. Like, black people exist.
Then
somehow
sleep
that's
on
woke.
it, ho.
Yeah.
Like, no one's making you, like Moni can attest.
Cold.
If you don't like woke stuff, just sleep on it. Because as Moni can tell you, comic books are easy to avoid. Like if you don't
I I mean, and honestly, but also I'm not fighting it. Like, if it's something we're going to talk about, like, I'm never, I mean, because if it's a good story, it's a good story no matter where you find it anyway. They're just not something that I go toward because I just don't.
It's just not your medium.
Yeah,
and I think that's fine.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And I think that
I was confused by the bubbles. I ain't gonna lie. It was
bubbles.
too many. Well, because I didn't know which order they went in. I like stuff to be a little bit more linear.
That can get confusing. But because I'm the type of person, when I love something, I consume it over and over again.
Yeah.
And so finally, I'm like, oh, okay, that goes in that order. And that is
So now I'm rereading it, and it's like, okay.
we gotta get to read them Japanese comics, a little mangas.
Oh God,
you gotta read them backwards.
They're all the books are backwards.
They're
I feel like
backwards.
yeah.
I mean, not backwards, but
Well,
from
they start
right to
from
left.
Yeah.
I got
From
some
our
magazines
POV.
from my brother that were, and I'm like, oh, okay, we're going reverse.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I just, I didn't know much about that character though, but I didn't know what you guys thought about how they represented her in the movie. Because I guess I wouldn't mind seeing more of her.
What was crazy is she originally went out for Shuri's role, that actress.
Oh, did she really?
Yeah, and she didn't have any film credits, so they were like, get some film credits, come back. And then they were like, okay, now we got something for you.
She was cute.
I liked her. I thought it was great.
She looked she was cute.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I've never seen her in anything either, so I didn't know if
I forget what movie she ended up being. I don't want to say the wrong thing, but she, if Bill Street Could Talk.
I don't think I watched it.
I didn't watch it either because I didn't feel like crying a whole
It
bunch.
was already sad reading it.
Yeah.
So we talked about this. Like, do you want to
did.
see Crepes or do you want to read
Yeah,
about them?
so
It's
she
like,
was she was in
Neither.
that, but like she was pretty. Everyone attached to this was amazing.
It was great.
And to your point about like themes, I think the uplifting of Black women in particular in that movie can't be overstated. Yeah, I think that the way that they gave Black women the spotlight was very cool to see. This movie could have very easily just been like a sequel to Black Panther and like used the same themes and just found new people to play out those themes, but they were very strategic about like, this is the story we want to tell, and it's not just a Black people story. Like, there's layers to it, there's intersections, and I think that they went about that very well. So that's something that really stuck out to me. Once again, people were kind of complaining about the black male erasure. Go watch Black Panther 1. Like, it's not.
Yeah.
Watch
or Blade.
Any film,
or
like,
Blade.
The Blade trilogy.
Oh, I forgot about Blade.
Don't forget about Blade. Oh, that should
Low
have made the
there
list.
wouldn't be Marvel movies without Blade.
There wouldn't. There
Nah.
wouldn't be any Marvel movies without. Thank you, Wesley Snipes. Thank you, Blade. He should have made my list.
He could be honorable mention.
But the thing is, like, I never read any Blade comics, to be fair. Okay. Like, I was introduced to him during the movies.
Me either. Me either, friend. It's okay. It's fine.
I want to go home and watch Blade.
Yeah.
So Blade was a Spider-Man villain when he came out in the comics.
Word?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. So
Daywalker.
was the Punisher. The Punisher was a Spider-Man
Oh,
villain.
and see,
Like,
Punisher was scary to me.
Oh yeah, but he was supposed to be though.
Yeah, I was
he
always
supposed to
a
be.
lot of times I was never gonna pick up a comic book with a big old gun on the. I'm like,
Oh my
because that's the thing I liked about a lot of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There were no guns. Like, everybody were just using their powers.
hands.
Yeah,
It was
using
like
their
on
hands. 'Cause
Friday.
that was the
We
thing,
used
too.
to use these.
You win some, you lose.
Because if you tried to use guns on Magneto, you got fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, you can't show
I
up
might
with guns
shoot you
to
with
a
your own gun.
right.
Oh,
You can't show
that
up
would
with
be
guns to a
crazy.
mutant fight.
Oh my God.
Like, yeah, that was.
That's
Did you
something.
ever watch the cartoon, like the
The
X-Men
X-Men,
cartoon?
yeah.
I feel like I did not watch that.
And low key, like the X-Men cartoon was really not for kids. Like, it was, but like
Lots of
there were
cartoons
some
aren't.
themes in that.
It came on Saturdays, but it was
It was heavy.
Yeah. I remember
my
talking to
gosh.
my dad all the time about that because he had, read the comics and stuff. So he was giving me the backstory while I was watching it and stuff. He'd be like, "Oh, they were da-da-da-da." And I was like, "What? That's crazy." Yeah. So I'm really, really like geeked out, excited to see all these different phases of the Marvel Universe, because when I was growing up, there used to be made-for-TV movies with the Hulk and Spider-Man, and they were garbage, but I still loved them because there were these characters that I loved that I got to see on screen. So now that these characters that I love are getting the treatment they deserve, finally, like these amazing characters.
A budget.
A budget.
We talk about
budget.
They got
budgets.
that mouse budget, that
Also-
Disney.
Yeah, they got that mouse budget.
And also Ruth Carter, because she is.
Oh, the costume, Lord, yeah.
She did.
And all the work she's done over her career, like
Mhm.
stuff, I didn't realize how much her work has influenced me. Like, because she did the costumes for She's Gotta Have It.
Really?
I believe so. I'm going to double check that. But I know she did Spike Lee, because I know she did Malcolm X. She did the costumes for Malcolm X. But I do.
What's her name? Ruth Carter.
Ruthie Carter.
She's
got-
Carter. Okay,
Mhm.
American costume designer for film, television.
Yeah, she also has an amazing documentary episode on Abstract on
cute.
Netflix, and it was really powerful. But She's Gotta Have It was one of the visual references for Jim and the Holograms.
Here we go, folks. No, I'm just playing. I like the Jim.
Yes,
She
but
always.
it's
I was like,
just-
how do you find your way back to Jim in Star Trek? Those are like,
They raised me,
find your way back.
Star Trek.
or actually, they reared me
They reared you.
because I
Okay.
use correct grammar.
Whatever. I don't. It's fine. It's the contrast.
I talk good.
I talk real good.
I mean,
real
yeah, I know all the words.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so it says she did costume design for Amistad, Malcolm
wow.
X. Let's see what else. Definitely, we just said the Black Panther. I don't see. She's got to have it though.
Oh, okay, I'm
But that
looking
doesn't
up.
mean anything. Wikipedia.
Yeah,
always
she
get
did a
the-
whole bunch. So
dope.
I like shouting her out because I'm a big fan.
I like it. I got a question for you guys though. So like in the vein of what you're saying about like their decision to sort of uplift Black women, to like a hero status and as a focal point, why do you think that's so uncomfortable? A, for people in general, and then for two, do you think there's a reason why it doesn't make you uncomfortable? You know what I mean? Like when that's sort of a narrative that is being pushed, like why don't you feel that way?
Because I want equality and not supremacy.
Mm.
I think that often when we talk about our struggle, and I mean our struggle like as Black American people specifically, I think that historically the women have been overshadowed because, we're used to the men being the ones in the streets getting shot down on camera at least, right? But sexism exists just as much as racism does. And we turn our struggle into a racial struggle, and sometimes that overshadows also the internal struggle of women's struggle, right? And because men have been the ones to lead, and I say that in quotes because not really, lead that struggle, women have been erased. And so I think that a lot of times people want supremacy. They don't necessarily want equality. And so the notion of equality bothers people. And I mean, that's why you got hoteps. That's why you got grown men out here
Hoteps.
talking about like women's body counts and all that. It's like, bro, I thought you were here for Black people. That means you want us in all forms, right? It doesn't matter, if a woman is not feminine or if she's not conforming to these standards that white men set anyway.
That's the part.
Oh, but I wanted to talk about the Mesoamerican representation.
Yeah.
Because
was
when I
dope.
found out that was going to be
dope.
part of the film, I almost passed out. I was like, this is my dream.
Wow.
Because I feel like those are narratives have always been denied us, like from their lips. Like we learn about, we live in Indiana, which means land of Indians, and we don't have any I never
Connection
met
to
one.
that at all. Yeah.
Like,
We have the Idol George Museum.
You got Camp Tecumseh.
Boom. Both.
And everything I've been told about them in my formative years came from the, lips of people who, not from them. So it's like, finally, I can follow them on Instagram now. I can
Yeah.
actually learn about them from them and to see the, their culture. Because please watch that podcast. When you see the research that went into properly representing them, making sure it was Mayan and not Aztec, really making sure that the pride came before the pain. They wanted to make sure that you got to see the glory of their culture. And the fact, because I always bring this up because we call them Mexicans, but a more accurate term would be Native Americans. Just because they're speaking Spanish, it's like, so they were subjugated.
colonized too.
Yeah, they were subjugated by the Spanish instead of the British. Well, big whoop.
Right.
That's not a that means they're different. I love their culture and I love their ethos, and because they're funny, like they'll come up with a turn of phrase. It's like, we didn't cross the border crossed us. We've been here for thousands of years. Like, you had that reframing helps to inform your actions, because to me that's why belief is always important, because your beliefs inform your actions. So if you believe that the heroes were the conquistadors, you know, like, then that's going to inform your actions. So if you look at it from the perspective of, like, because you don't think anything like that could happen to you. Like, we're so advanced, nothing could ever happen to overthrow it. It's like, all right.
That is it. That's definitely true.
Now, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, because it doesn't affect you the same when you don't feel like you're gonna have any real direct impact.
When you feel detached from it. Yeah. And that's like the us and them kind that we were talking about. And so I was going to ask you, like, because to me, the narrative between the Wakandans and the Atlanteans, right, was kind of a retelling of the first movie's theme of that dissonance between the Africans and the American Black people. I wanted to know, like, what were y'all's thoughts on that? Because to me, it was very obvious that Namor wasn't the villain, even though he is being framed as the villain.
Right.
But it was more a narrative on these circumstances have juxtaposed us in these positions against each other, but we really ain't, you know, like,
you don't really have smoke.
Yeah.
We have way more in common.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite things I realized when I think I was somewhere and they had a Colombian food truck and they had the arepas. And I was like, this is hot water cornbread.
Arepas are hot water cornbread.
Right?
Yes.
Yes. And I was like, okay, so this is just the same
like my granny's food.
Yeah. Like, I think we're rowing the same boat. Like, ultimately. And so that's, to me, how I've always felt. But for me, whenever I've heard people, like, Black people, speak disparagingly about Mexicans, or, you know, to me, I always thought it was so stupid. I was like, first off, because I'm shallow, I'm like, they're beautiful. So there's that part. But then also, too, like, if you take the time to get to know anybody on a personal level and then a culture as a whole, like, it's so much more than a Taco Bell commercial. Like, you know, or the Three Amigos or whatever.
Oh my God, not that movie. That was,
I don't know. That's just how I feel about it.
No, that's true. I do like that they tried to, you know, sort of reiterate that story of division and how you try to segment people who are technically in the same boat, make them think they're enemies. I didn't like that we spent so much time with the focus of the animosity between them. Like,
it was hard to watch.
Yeah, I was like, I actually kind of hate that. I didn't like
see them fighting.
I'm like, why don't we put this toward and
well, I'll take that back. I did like the scene where Okoye was fighting that warrior dude, the Aztec warrior dude on the bridge with no music, where you just hear the vibranium hitting vibranium. Yeah. That was amazing in theaters.
That makes
the fight scenes were visually very dope, but to your point, thematically, it was like, oh man,
I didn't want to see that. I didn't want to see that. I'm like, I do,
especially when they killed the one woman who was watching Shuri. I hated that, like, because she was trying to. Shuri wanted to save her.
Too, yeah.
She did. Like, she didn't really, you know what I mean? Like, she's just a. You had time to slip her in the little bead.
Like, no, we gotta go. We gotta get the hell out of here. But yeah, it's just, I don't like that. And I do want to see a story where they do go there, though.
Yeah.
Like, where's the story where they do link up, where the Mesoamericans,
like,
and they're not gonna want to see
this is Disney. They I mean, like, the fact that they gave Ryan Coogler so much creative direction really speaks volumes to me, because I didn't even think they were going. Like, to me, they made Killmonger, like, low-key choking out Black women every 5 minutes because they needed to make sure people knew he was the bad guy.
Right.
You feel me?
You couldn't have too many good feelings about him.
His ideology was too likable.
I was really hoping he didn't die.
Me too.
Because they were in Wakanda. Like, people survive stab wounds all the time. They killed. What was the Asian? I still think of him as the dude from Arthur Dent.
Oh.
No, I never really watched The Hobbit. Those weren't really my jam. But he was Arthur Dent in Hitchhiker's Guide to.
I know who you're talking about. The white guy.
The white guy.
The white guy.
The colonizer. Don't sneak up on me, colonizer. I like the fact that they came back for him.
Yeah.
Like they didn't just leave him in the winds. They were like, we
Yeah.
wasn't gonna let you
He's
go
our
to
favorite
federal
colonizer.
prison.
Yeah.
He was down.
He
down.
was. He
Because
was
he
down for the
knew it was
cause.
real.
That's
He
an
was
ally.
He was like the Alex Trebek of Marvel.
Man, damn.
Alex
Let's
Trebek
try.
is like top 5
Was he
white
out
men to
there?
me.
I don't know,
Straight
because
up, I
I
don't
feel
know
like he's had some dodgy stuff too.
Alex Trebek
I
has really?
think
Oh, don't
so.
tell me that.
I'm not gonna tell you,
Oh,
like, because I didn't
no.
even dig too deep. When I started hearing that, I was like, I don't want to know no more.
Mhm.
All right.
We'll stop right there, right? Yeah, I don't know. I think it would be interesting to see a film where they do explore just the two underdogs be like, yeah, fuck them. Like, I want to see that story.
There's so many, and, Alice
I would love to
Walker
see
in
that.
her
Yeah.
book, she does write about that a lot. About she'll do
Rising
stories
up and
about
overcoming.
well about she'll tell stories about runaway slaves who were held by indigenous people.
Mm.
Like we don't get those stories,
Ooh,
like
those
about
awesome.
how how many Black people are part of these tribal nations now because they
Because of
were because of that, and the fact that they're like, I think we're on the same page. Like those stories aren't promoted, but they're there.
Yeah, those are the stories that I think are the interesting ones. Like that's the point. Like we get tired of seeing the same story. So I think it is nice when you can have a female heroine in a story, or you know what I'm saying? You see the oppressed people actually rise up and overcome. It's like, well, I'll be damned.
And it's like because they
We've
have
arrived.
We've arrived.
because they got the glow, because they both have vibranium. Because let's talk about like the metaphor of vibranium. Because
Vibration for one. That's
yes, like that vibranium, the fact that we were hit with this substance from the universe. And like she explained it, like, yeah, if a meteor hit, it's more likely to hit in the ocean. Most of our world is water. So like if something hit Wakanda, it probably hit water too. And so yeah, let's talk about how we have this incredible source of power that gets misused so much. And so what can we do to properly harness our power? Because one of my favorite sort of mental, thought experiments from indigenous culture is when they talk about the two wolves. And it's this idea of the duality, which because there is the possibility.
Well,
all
say
of us
it for
to-
those who may not. My bad.
okay,
I just
so-
assumed everybody knew about that. Go ahead and say it.
Because in every person, you have the capacity for great good and great evil. And they say that that's like two wolves inside of you. But like the wolf you feed is the one that's going to grow. So all you have to do is like, if you want a good life, is just feed the good wolf. You don't have to feed the bad wolf.
I feed the bad wolf all the time though, and it's like carbs.
I don't know if
Cheese.
that's.
I'm just playing. I'm just kidding. I know. I was trying to be funny. Okay.
But yeah, that idea.
Not the same
of-
thing. Okay.
We have that. So in Wakanda Forever, we see Shuri and Namor feeding that bad wolf because it feels good. It feels good. That's why anger is a part of grief. It's because when you're feeling angry, you feel powerful because loss makes us feel powerless. Like watching this person you loved with all your heart, because this is why the scene with T'Challa when he sees his father in the ancestral plane, and then when you see Toussaint show up on the beach, because it's never over. That's the thing. The fact that we're here, we're part of an unbroken chain. So like we're here, like we are the prayers of our ancestors.
Yeah.
Like we're.
I feel like you're trying to make everybody cry right now.
I'm not
is
trying
rude.
to, but that's the part. That's the part where it
Not
was
rude.
like one of my favorite African proverbs that Kola Booth taught me was that if my father dies, I give birth to him again. So when that little boy showed up on the beach with a big eye, he was just eyes and teeth and cheeks
These little
and
dimples.
They casted that crazy too. Like he looked like him.
He was
and
adorable.
and the fact too that they had that wind, because when Queen Ramonda was like, I felt your brother. And that was the thing too, because I've lost people, but as long as I'm here, they're still here. Because you can never lose what you had. And you do see them. It's crazy because there's a Janet Jackson song, Together Again. And it's
I
an
think you told me you always
upbeat song
cry about that.
every time.
I thought you were talking about a totally different song too. It's like together again. Something. And I'm like, that makes you cry
every time.
I thought it was the Again song.
That's
the
like Hey
slow
Ya
one.
by Outkast.
Which one?
Hey
Hey Ya
Ya.
makes you cry?
It don't make me cry, but it's dark. Like
makes
if
me-
you
Yeah,
actually
I
listen
know
to the
it
words,
is.
yeah.
It's not a peppy song.
No.
Yeah.
It's
The
about the
contrast, that
ultimate
makes me
finality
cry.
of love. but the idea of, because the song was about everyone she had lost from AIDS. And so, but every time I'm like, oh my God, because that's so true. Like I do still, every time I feel love, it's from that first love I had. So it's like, I know that every time that I'm experiencing something, it's a product of that love. I like it.
Well, guys, get your tissues out, wipe your nose.
No, I got through
I'm just
that.
kidding.
I got it through without crying. I'm proud of myself.
Well, I don't know if they did. I mean, that was pretty good. But no, it's
Yeah.
Black love. I mean, it kind of takes us back full circle to, the top of the show and just talking about Black love and why it's important too. So I just, I like that we get to see love stories about original cultures. And then too, like just, highlighting women and even though grief, like you said, is love persisting, it's almost like it's a gift in a way because it's like if you never knew love, you wouldn't even be able to experience grief, technically. You know what I mean? So,
you wouldn't be. There's tons of people who aren't sad when their parents die.
You're just like,
we read a whole book called "I'm Glad My Mom Died."
I gotta wear sunglasses and pretend. It's like, I guess. Like, she's kind of
But
terrible.
there was something transformative that happened when my dad died. Like I felt myself become another person as soon as he died. And it was indescribable, but it was undeniable.
Right.
And it wasn't what I was expecting to feel. I was expecting to feel like completely torn down, but I was like, wow, this was powerful. Like the fact that I got to know this person and see them leave, that was incredibly powerful.
That was
and the
wild.
fact that every time I look at my son, I see him. It's
You
wild.
gave birth to him, literally. He looks just like you.
Wild.
Yeah.
Yes. And so it's like, and I have him in that way too.
Well, that's the hope part, though. Like, that's the part that, that I think is hard to see when you're in the middle of grief, though. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes.
Yeah.
That, like you're saying, like, seeing that little kid on the beach, that feeling of, like, damn, okay. Like, that, it never really goes anywhere. But you have to go through all of those stages. It's like a hero's journey, too, but just for love.
I have to cry now.
Okay, see? We almost made it, guys. Listen, well, on that note, guys, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back. All right, you guys, so welcome back from the break. My goodness, this was so much fun because, like, I'm not even ready for it to be over, but this is.
I want to talk about it forever.
Long ass day.
It has
We gotta
been-
let our guests go. We can't just hold them
Yeah.
hostage. You know, he's got things to
It's
do.
not cool.
I've got kids and a family and stuff. They might want to see me today,
A
but
little bit. I gotta push the button on the dishwasher.
oh
Gotta
man,
push the button on the dishwasher.
you really gotta hire somebody
Yeah.
for that. You should not have to do that.
Take the chicken out the freezer, you know.
Oh my gosh. But yes, this was what a beautiful like exploration of Black love. And really just being able to see, stories about Black people being awesome. Like we were just saying during the break, like I'm really grateful that my kids get to, first of all, they had a Black president. Like that was their first president they ever experienced. Like
Damn,
that's
that was
super
their first
dope. It was
president.
their first
Wow.
presidential
That's amazing.
experience. And then, so knowing that like in reality, these are, that's representation, but just, I don't know. I just love, we say Black love. And again, like it's a reclamation, but I do think like reclaiming our stories are really important. Understanding our stories are really important and seeing our stories are really important. So this movie was awesome. And if I had to rate it, I usually ask you first. I would probably give it. What is this called? Is this just the Wakanda?
This is the Wakanda salute.
Yeah, I'm giving 5 of those. Like,
But
I
in
love
American
love.
Sign Language, it means love.
Yes, I'm giving it 5
That's
of those. Black love, Wakanda signs across my chest.
There you go.
What about you?
I'm gonna let our guest go first
Okay,
because
yes.
I'm polite.
What up, Paul? What you got for us?
Yeah, I definitely think that I would also give it 5. Wakanda signs across the chest. I
Let's
think that
go.
it
Hard ones.
it covered so many nuances and things that are very hard to articulate, and it found a way to articulate those things without like either you get it or you don't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that that's what art is supposed to be for me. So I definitely would also give it 5 out of 5.
Thank
go.
you.
I like
Yeah,
it.
without that fear of being misunderstood, because that's what it takes. I'm giving it, I can't even put it into numbers. I'm giving it infinity out of infinity, because there's just not enough. I have to give it an irrational number because there's not enough numbers to encapsulate how much I love this film and this series and what it means to me.
Aw, and you guys, if you're watching the video, you should showcase your necklace. Like, I feel like this.
Oh
is
yeah,
dope. I don't know if you guys
Kinda
want to check
dope,
that
yeah.
out.
Yeah,
But
thanks to
in
my son
O
for
too.
letting me take this.
Thank you.
But yeah, it's one of my faves. I wish it like collapsed into an actual Black Panther suit, but
Oh my God,
as an accessory, it's cool.
I wouldn't be able to handle that.
Oh, they couldn't give me that much power.
Oh my
'cause
God.
I'd be
Yeah,
Killmonger.
I
It's
think
like I'd
for
abuse
Halloween
it,
this year,
just like everybody else.
I would abuse it.
I would just
Yeah.
abuse it
Yeah.
because I wouldn't.
Oh,
It's
of
like
course.
finally, it's me,
It's like ultimate power.
For
I'd be like
real.
Jafar.
Yeah.
Jafar. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then now you're in a genie bottle. So,
Yeah.
See, you just get stuck.
But ultimately, power is because that was the other thing too. Okay, I'm obsessed with Scientology, hard left. So like David Miscavige, because everyone's always like, yeah, I want power, I want money. It makes people insane and paranoid. And
Is this a Stranger Than Fiction story then? Or?
yes, impromptu Stranger Than
Stranger
Fiction.
Than Fiction.
David Miscavige is missing. Like his wife has been missing since like 2007, and like now he's gone because he's got too many cases. It's getting hot. And so, because surprise, surprise, there's a ton of sexual violence as well in this wildly unethical organization. So, yeah.
He's missing.
He's just, they
I'm
can't
sorry,
find
I'm
him.
still stuck
Googling
on
it
that.
right
Yeah, I
now,
gotta
huh?
find it.
They can't find
I'm
him.
curious about that myself.
It says, "Where is David Miscavige now?"
Oh wow.
Yeah, let's find out. Where
They
is he?
don't know.
They don't know. But that, and it's funny because the creator of Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard, he died in hiding because he had to dodge a bunch of process servers. And
Appears to be missing. Wow.
yeah, it's crazy. A lot of the
That's
Sea Org
deep.
people, a lot of the children
Look
who were
at him.
brought up in it were wildly
Did you
abused.
know he looked like that?
He looked like he abused somebody for real.
God, he looks.
God.
His dad had to escape. I read his dad's book. His dad had to escape the organization, like had to plan and escape. And you know how he was able to do it? An Amazon Kindle. Because
Oh, wow.
they thought it was just for books, but he was able to get the internet on it, was able to look up stuff. Go and look it up yourself. That's always important. Look,
Kindle.
read, find it out. And he was able to be like, we got to get the fuck up out of here. Unfortunately, his wife was on board and they were able to break free. But
Wait, who's the? Okay, so said to be missing allegedly by attorneys who spent the last 4 months attempting to reach him. You might wonder why the lawyers need to reach him so badly. Could it be to discuss the lawsuit against the church by 3 women who've accused Danny Masterson of, Crepe, and says church
Oh, this
stalked-
article is shady.
Yeah, this is very. Who is this from? Let me make sure. Oh, Jezebel, Lord. I need to get a real
Yeah,
news
let's
source.
get a good source.
Okay,
but
so,
he is like they're speculating on why, but yes, there's a lot of lawsuits, a lot more than just that, because it's not just, of course there's always sex leads usually, but because it's human trafficking, that's the problem. They use a lot of slave labor because people join the Sea Org and they're basically have to pledge their life's work to the church. It's very sad. But if it's all you knew, because they're very insular.
Of course.
So that's why it's important to make sure people have access to information. So go and look it up yourself. Stranger Than Fiction's over.
That's over.
But
That's over.
yeah.
I'll put a newsworthy. There's one from the New York Post that I'll put in here for you guys to read if you haven't found it.
Oh, you know, I want to tell this story too, because a lot of times when people are like, when Black Panther first came out, I remember I made sure like everyone I knew saw it. And so I took my son to see it. At the time, he had like a little girlfriend or whatever. And she lived out in a small town in Indiana. You can guess what pigment she was. And I was asking him, I was like, has she seen it? He was like, no, our parents don't want her to see it because it's like about Black power. He's like, but they're not racist though. I'm like, actually, counterpoint, they are.
Yeah.
Because was she able to see the other Marvel movies? It's like, yeah.
It was about Black power.
Yeah.
That sounds kind of racist.
Is that
to me.
what it was about?
It wasn't.
I mean, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it was.
Well, keep in mind what a lot of what we consider white people consider Black Power. Like, they think of the Black Panthers. What they know about Black Panthers, and I'm not kidding you about this, is from Forrest Gump. Like, for a lot of people, like, that's all they know about the Black Panthers. It's like they were the people who were mean to Forrest Gump. And, like, are
not
menacing.
The free lunches.
No,
free
not
education.
Or, you know, disabled. Yeah, like, all the things that what it was about, which was, once again, fighting police brutality. Ultimately, that's why they organized. It's like, hey, please keep killing us.
I'm glad that's not over.
Yeah. So once again, like, instead of having a clear view of history, it's like it's Black is mean, Black is scary.
That's true. I'm sorry.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of.
Well, let's spin the wheel real quick.
Oh yeah. Well, no, we're not even. That's just too. We're too fake for that.
Go now.
We've announced it so many times. Now. It's for real. For real. Next time, Kindred, the series, and the book. We're gonna talk about it.
So fuck the wheel.
So we'll post a wheel, but we've already spent it.
That's true.
And
the wheel's been.
We're
spun.
going on 2 hours and 7 minutes. Earth time.
We love to talk. Bye. See you guys.
Here's a clip from our Patreon content.
Niggas do shit like that because they don't have the confidence to. Okay, 2 reasons. One, they don't have the confidence or the tools to be able to say exactly what they want from that young lady. So they'll just catcall, and it's an easy way to keep their ego kind of intact a little bit, even if she rejects them.
Rather than just leave, just not saying anything, and just thinking to yourself.
But he wants her to know that he wants
her,
like but he don't.
Noticed. It's like real, like
he don't know how to have the conversation. He don't know how to
properly have a conversation with him,
or even.
I paid for that properly flight.
What?
He's
Kodak properly driver.
A rapper.
Gotcha.
There was an incident with a young lady who got flued out.
Yeah, man. She was. It's a barbecue in there,
and didn't understand the.
Didn't understand. Okay, that's embarrassing.
It is for her mostly.
But yeah, I'm not a
not really
type of person.
Yeah, I gave him hella praise for that. That was so funny.
I don't know the story.
Because she sounded young. I give girl.
Well, Kodak is young too.
What are we talking
How old
about?
is he?
Can I know the story?
Kodak is early 20s.
I'm gonna let Brothers Tonight tell it because he's a fantastic storyteller.
Do it.
See, she complimented you.
And
she just
boom,
complimented you.
Yeah,
See?
and I appreciate that.
And I have a degree in storytelling.
Boom.
So yes,
So there was
you said I'm good at storytelling.
hallelujah, holla back.
Tell me the story. What happened? What are the kids doing now?
So there was a young lady that Kodak Black, he sought her company, and he purchased a flight for the young lady to accompany him in whatever city and state he was in.
And also, was it limousine?
Before we go, we must give thanks to Urban Nerd for providing our music, and legal services were handled by Trezanae M. Atkins. If you like what you heard, please feel free to join us every Wednesday for another fake-ass book club. Cheers.
Thank you guys for listening. You can check us out at thefabpodcast.com. Please subscribe, rate, and review our podcast wherever you're listening right now. We want to hear from you. Come put it in our life. Thanks again, and until next time, peace, love, and the Fake Ass Book Club. We out.